We are reaching into the mailbag for part 2 of our mailbag episode. Today, we'll talk about the player who must get re signed. Unless.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Tuesday episode the way we kick off all of our episodes, and that is with a heartfelt shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders community and to our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
On today's show, we put out the call for questions. You all filled up the mailbag. So we are doing part 2 of our mailbag episode. Got so many great questions. We are going to talk about a contract that definitely needs some ink on it. We're going to talk about an either or discussion about some potential centers. And we are going to discuss one of my all-time favorites, Pekka Rinne. We also may, if we're feeling bold, exercise our weekend prediction muscles when we talk about Stanley Cup final, Game 6. Emma, you know predictions in us. Not enough Xanax in the world, but we may try it. I don't know. It's got to go better than how we predicted the Predators season. Probably.
Let's not speak that into existence, but okay.
Oh. We may give that a whirl. Now, I do want to shout out Emma before we kick off our hockey coverage, because as you all probably know, Emma covers baseball as well. And I am not a baseball person. So Emma just walked me through what is going on with the Boston Red Sox, but she translated it into hockey terms. So whoever the Boston Red Sox general manager is, why are you getting rid of Leon Draisaitl? What are you doing?
Basically. Yeah, it's been a busy 24 hours for me covering the Rafi Devers trade. Yeah, it's been a thing. I mean, and I don't know, I'm not an NBA fan either, but I know the magnitude of this deal has been compared to the Luka trade from Dallas that happened earlier in the year. So it's a big deal, like franchise altering deal.
Yeah.
So it's been a busy time in my world.
I am thankful that we are not dealing with something of that magnitude today with the Nashville Predators, because we dealt with something of that magnitude for the last 84 years.
Yes.
And so just here to answer questions today. As far as we know, there's no big breaking news like Leon Draisaitl got traded by the Boston Red Sox. So rest assured, friends.
That would be news.
Would that not be incredible? I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys who could play any sport. Like, you know how there are just some athletes that you're like, you would probably excel at anything. Draisaitl's one of those. But, you know.
Not a lot of German baseball players, but hey.
That's a fact. That's very true. Probably great at soccer or football, as they call it over there. Yeah. All right. We're going to talk about the Nashville Predators now and reach into our mailbag. We got so many great questions, and this is one that I think is timely. It is something that we have touched on, but I think it's something that we would love to get breaking news on. So here is our first question, Emma, of part 2. Will Barry Trotz re-sign Luke Evangelista? Luke Evangelista is an RFA, just wrapped up his 3-year deal. He got paid just under $80,000 a year. I have many thoughts on this. My first thought is, you betcha. Like, he absolutely has to re-sign Luke Evangelista, unless the only sphere in which a re-signing wouldn't happen is if Barry Trotz started pushing all the buttons and decided, I am going to make just a ginormous hockey trade that's going to fix something. because I can see Evangelista being an appealing piece for another team if they are looking for somebody with a little bit of experience who is young, who we haven't seen a ceiling yet. So I can see why Evangelista could be a part, not a whole, but a part of a bigger hockey trade. But where I stand, for the love of all that's holy, ink the deal, Trotz. Ink the deal.
Yeah, I think, with RFAs, this year's RFA class is arguably more interesting than the UFA class, I think. Like, other than Mitch Marner, there's like not a ton. Mitch Marner and like Sam Bennett, not a ton going on the UFA side of things. But RFAs, I mean, you've got guys like like Matthew Nyes, and then you have like Turka. Buffalo's got a few guys.
They
Um,
do.
so Marco Rossi, who we talked about, I think that there's a lot more interesting guys on the RFA market who could potentially be going for that long-term deal where it's like, let's skip the
Mm-hmm.
fee of a 2-year bridge deal and just get you locked up long-term while we can, because we know that you're part of the future or the core of our franchise. I don't think Luke Evangelista is in that category. I would say he is a good candidate for like a 2-year bridge deal. See what he's got. You're investing in him, but you're not over investing in him. You think he can be part of the core, but you need him to prove it. And if he doesn't, that's when you move on.
Yeah. I think this is going to be very much a Tommy Novak type deal in that you see something, you need to see more before you say 100% this is the guy. And I think Tommy Novak's situation was influenced by the way that he went into last season, as you are the presumptive 2C in between Hall of Famer Steven, future Hall of Famer Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, who's coming off of a career year. And, there's an expectation in that. And so I don't know that I'm as concerned about Luke Evangelista falling short and being moved on from as quickly as we saw Tommy Novak just bye-bye like that. I hardly remember him. It happened real quick. But I agree with you. I think we haven't seen enough, as much as, love Luke, love the growth that we have seen from him. I don't think we have seen enough to really know what his ceiling is with the Nashville Predators for them to say, you know what, this is going to be your deal. You are going to get, a multi-year, longer term deal. Even if the AAV was lower, I just don't see them doing a deal with long term with him. They just don't know yet what they have. If you had to ballpark it, you're saying like maybe 2 years. I think Novak's was a 3-year deal, but like 2-3-year deal max for him. What do you think like AAV would be for Evangelista, that you would be like, you know what? I see that.
Well, Novak was also a UFA, or he was going to be a
That's true.
UFA with
That's true.
with this. You have like, he's arbitration eligible. You get a little bit more control there, but I think something like 2.5
Yeah. Yep.
million. I think that I mean per year, not for the whole contract,
Mhm.
but I think that that's kind of, especially with the cap going up.
Mhm.
I think that's what they should be aiming for. I'm sure, obviously, if Luke Evangelista's agent is good at his job, he's going to be asking for more than that. But definitely, should not be hitting 3 million a year on
Yeah.
that. I think like
I
something kind of like what you signed Cody Glass to, honestly. But Cody Glass is a center. Centers are more expensive. So I think you could get, like I said, 2 to 2.5 million for Evangelista for 2 years.
Yeah. And I think that's a good faith offer. I think that's we see you have some potential. We are ready for you to pop off. And I do think it's important that Luke Evangelista does that. Like we have seen, like I said, we have seen him grow. We have seen him improve. We are seeing him get better. The end of the season when he was playing with the high level talent on a line with them, you saw his game elevated. Now you need that consistently from Luke Evangelista. You need some idea of the ceiling from Vange. So I really believe this will get done. Evangelista and Barry Trotz were both asked about it at the end of the season. Both parties want to get something done. And I know that's what they say, but I also believe that both parties want to get something done here in Nashville. So I will not be surprised to have Evangelista and a deal done here this offseason for sure. So something to keep your eye out on. We do expect to see Vange back after washing all of his stuff that got muddy at Bonnaroo. So coming up, we do want to have another conversation, and it's going to be an either or discussion. Which young center would we prefer the Predators add to the roster? We're going to debate and discuss coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for that snack that is both delicious and nutritious, friends, you have got to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein. That's going to give you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I am personally a no shells variety kind of girl. It's a perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm working here at my desk or driving downtown, or if I just hit that part of the afternoon where I know I need a little protein boost. It is a perfect go-to. But if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, they have great in-shell options that are classic favorites. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. We are reaching into our Locked On Predators mailbag, pulling out questions and answering them for our Locked On Predators insider community and our everydayers. So let's talk about an either or question, Emma. You know that Barry Trotz has his work cut out for him this offseason, talked about need to get a defenseman. But what about getting a center? And let's just say you had to choose, Emma, between either Trevor Zegras or Marco Rossi. If you had the choice, which center would you try to get?
Rossi.
Okay, tell me why.
Down.
Tell me why. I'm
To
intrigued.
me, he's been more consistent, and you go with, at least for me, you go with more consistent. Yes, he's a little undersized. I mean, Zegras isn't a big guy either. I think that he's been able, for the most part, to stay healthier than Zegras has. I think that his style of play, Rossi's that is, can kind of fit well with a bunch of different, systems. And I don't know. To me, he's a guy that I would rather have on my team. Like, Zegras' ceiling might be higher. But as far as what you're guaranteed to get, to me, Rossi is the no-brainer.
Yeah, I actually am with you. And look, I love Trevor Zegras. I'm somebody who has always been intrigued by him. But when you're talking an either or, I fall in the Rossi camp as well for a couple of reasons. One, I get a little worried about the injuries that Zegras has had. Now we know he was actually here in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena, I think he broke his ankle. And then it was it was not good. And don't go back and watch it. It was one of those you don't want to see in slow motion twice. But he also had meniscus surgery in December for a torn meniscus. And look, I'm not saying those things don't happen to other players and they can come back full strength, but it's just something that I think you are mindful of. I love Zegras's chutzpah. And in some ways, I'm like, I love a little of that in the locker room. But in other ways, I'm like, look, right now, the Nashville Predators had trouble matriculating in a former captain and a veteran and getting a groove, finding the vibe in the locker room. Trevor Zegras is a lot to matriculate, I think, and not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm like, you are bringing in, a bigger personality, I think. So I think you have to be mindful of it and the timing of it as well.
Yeah. I also I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, just more kind of making an observation. Does not seem to me to be the kind of personality that Barry Trotz would take a shine to.
Yeah. And there's a little Yaroslav Askarov. Did I get it?
Mhm. Yes, you
Yes.
did.
I think that's a fair comparison, a little Yaroslav Askarov. And again, love Askey, love him, loved covering him, loved his personality. I am not sure that is the prototypical chutzpah that Barry Trotz is like, I would like more of that in my locker room, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I think both of those players, to be honest, like the ceiling for
Mhm.
them is incredibly high, but the floor is not high enough for Barry Trotz to be willing to put up with the chutzpah, as you say.
Yes, the
Um,
antics.
yes. So, and I'm not saying like we're making it sound like these are like troubled teens or something. Like they're not.
They're
It's just
not.
like they have personalities. They are not like love Roman. They're not Roman Yossi. Like
Mhm.
they are not good soldiers who just fall in line and just, you know,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
speak their minds. So they're a
I
little bit more
like
Jonathan Marchessault
there you go, and that
in
went
terms of
swimmingly.
yes. Yes. We haven't been talking about that for, the
Nothing.
last month.
Drama
Yeah.
cauldron, drama cauldron, drama
Oh, yeah.
cauldron.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's interesting. I thought this was really fun when I was looking at these guys. Both were ninth overall picks in back-to-back drafts, which I was like, "Oh, isn't that fun?" I am with you. I do Rossi has a little bit less NHL game experience, but I don't know. There is something about Rossi that is so intriguing to me. And I don't know that he is on Trotz's radar in a serious way, but I am certainly hoping that he is in conversations that are considering how could we make this work? Because I think there's something there. And look, Nashville, they've got to get some centers. They're going to get one in the draft if all goes according to Emma and my plan, but they need something, a little depth, a few more pieces would not hurt anybody. So yeah, if it was an either or, I'm taking Marco Rossi, and Emma is too.
If the Nashville Predators end up with too many centers, I would love that for them. Like that would be the
Amazing.
best problem to have.
I
No
would
one has
just sit
that
and
problem.
count them day in and day out. I would just count them.
Yes, that
Look at
would
them
be so
all.
nice.
Look at them all.
Uh, yeah,
Oh,
that
those
would
would be the
that would
days.
be that would be that would be the day.
That would be the day. All right, we're going to answer another quick question here, and this one is more about Emma and I. Bless. How did you get into sports journalism, Emma? I know you was a Spanish major, which is
Yes,
the
I
first
was.
step to covering
Yes,
an NHL team.
yes. Naturally, yeah. First thing you gotta do, double major in Spanish and politics,
Nailed it.
minor in linguistics, be a ballerina.
Mhm.
It's the recipe, the ultimate recipe. No, I was always a sports fan as a kid. But I was the classic example of those who can do, those who can't teach. So I was like really knowledgeable about sports. I would watch them with my dad, um, particularly baseball, hockey, and football. But and it wasn't for lack of trying. My parents let me try a bunch of team sports. I was not good at them. I really wasn't. Like, I'm not good at like aggression or like
Mhm.
anything. So like I played basketball for 3 years. I fouled someone
Oh
one
my
time in
gosh.
3 years. And I was so excited because let me tell you, I wasn't a scorer either. So that was the only way I was getting on the score sheet was if I hit someone, and I did. But
Mhm.
anyway, um yeah, so I when I got to college, I started volunteering in the athletic communications office. I just walked in and was like, hey, like, I just want to be around this. Like, can I do stats or something? You don't even have to pay me. And they were like, yes, come in,
Signed.
please. And so yeah, I started doing a lot of athletic communications work, and truly for almost my entire college career thought of it as only a hobby. Never once considered it as a like potential career for me. Until my senior year, second semester senior year, when you get that existential crisis of like, oh, what am I going to do with my life once I graduate? And so I was like, well, I should just start applying for jobs, like get my feet wet. And I, on a whim, applied for a job at the NFL, at the league office, the commissioner's office in the NFL. Again, just to get my feet wet with the application process. Long story short, I ended up being one of the final 3 candidates for this job. Didn't get the job, but I was so glad that they told me that I was one of the final 3 because that was what I needed to take it seriously, to be like, oh, I got that close. Like maybe I can do this, for a career. And so that's the whole reason I even started looking in other, at sports jobs after that. And yeah, I got my first job working for the US national team, USA Baseball, bounced around a little bit, and now here I am.
Living the dream with me.
Oh, yeah.
After 84 years.
84 years later, here we are.
Here we are. I love that. Coming up, I'm going to share with you my sports journalism journey, and we are then going to pivot and talk about one of my all-time favorites. We're going to talk about Pekka Rinne. So Emma and I are answering mailbag questions. We got one about how did you get into sports journalism? Well, clearly you major in political science and Spanish with a minor in linguistics, or you major in Christian education with a minor in theater. That's your pathway.
Yeah,
Right.
It's got to be one or the other. Otherwise, what are you even doing?
What are you doing? How are you ever going to get there? So I graduated from college with a degree in Christian education, a minor in theater. I worked in different churches doing different kinds of ministry, got married, had kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. Out of those years, 9 of them, I homeschooled a combination of 1, 2, or 3 of our children at different points, and fell in love with learning again as kind of homeschooling my kids. And so and then we've talked about how my friend Eli took me to my first hockey game and the timeout booth, and did I need chapstick and all of that. And I became obsessed with learning about hockey. And so like I read every book. I've watched so many YouTube hockey coaching videos. I literally, Emma, went out and bought and read Hockey Coaching for Dummies because I just wanted to learn more about it. And I loved writing. I've always been a writer. I wrote stories when I was a little girl. I still have the typewriter that was my parents' that I would type all these stories on, made up stories and stuff. So I've always loved words and writing. And after the Nashville Predators lost the Stanley Cup in 2017, I wrote something on Facebook just about how I felt about watching the process and watching the players and seeing them lose and all that kind of stuff. And I had followed some different local blogs. I submitted it to one of the local hockey blogs who was looking for writers. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. And I thought that was great. But then I thought, no, wait a minute. I know that I've been out of the workforce for a while, but I can take this seriously. And so I just started pursuing ways to improve the craft and learn more and learn interviewing skills. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here and bounced around to some different outlets and ended up here with Emma, getting through 84 years. So here's the takeaway. If you love something, learn about it and then do it. Because you just never know. Like, friends, I was supposed to be on Broadway or baptizing babies. I don't know, but here we are on Locked On Predators today. Here we are.
Here we most certainly are. Yeah.
Here
I
we
was
are.
supposed to be like covering whatever's going on Capitol Hill in Spanish, maybe. I don't know. Like and now we're here. Listen, the Spanish thing was actually quite helpful when I worked in baseball. Not so much in hockey. Although I did get my master's degree in Spanish translation. And for my thesis, instead of doing like a traditional like research paper, we could translate a 40-page document basically into the language that we were studying. But it had to be something that didn't already have an official translation, because that would be cheating.
Right.
And of course, everything in baseball already has official translations in Spanish. So yours truly translated the official NHL rulebook
Let's
into
go.
Spanish. And then I had to defend it before my, the thesis board. And of course, they're all academics. They don't know sport. They're like, this, if no one's ever done anything like this, you should send this to the league. And I'm like, yes, there's a reason no one's ever done anything like this.
Gary Bettman is going to put that in the look at later pile.
Which is called the trash can. That is what he's going to do with it.
The circular file. Yes.
Yes. But hey, it's finding ways to marry those passions. Also, in my undergrad thesis for politics, we just had to write 40 pages about something political, like pick a side in an argument and make it political. So I could have, if I wanted to write 40 pages on it, I could have said like, I don't know, I could have argued that Reese's are better than Milk Duds for 40 pages.
Yep.
But anyway, I wrote my thesis about baseball. Baseball in Latin America, specifically the Dominican Republic. So I'm like, if I can write 40 pages about something, I want it to be something that interests me. So
100%.
You find ways.
You find the thing you love. That makes me giggle because I did my independent study, had to be a 40-page paper on something, and I did mine on the spring lambing program and its benefits for the small sheep farmer.
I love that.
Love that for me. So if you're wondering when you should breed your sheep and you have a small sheep farm, drop a comment on our YouTube page and I'll let you know why the spring lambing program is for you.
I mean, who among us has not wondered that?
I mean, not pondered. Moving back to hockey, let's talk about Pekka Rinne. We got a great question. You want to talk about existential questions? Let's answer this bad boy about Pekka Rinne. Do you think our beloved statue hero, Pekka Rinne, makes it into the Hall of Fame, Emma?
Well, I don't think you're going to like my answer.
We might break up, friends. This might be the last Locked On Predators you ever see. Go ahead.
I'm going to say no. And not like absolutely not. It would be a travesty if he did. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, realistically, probably not. I'm not saying this is anything that's necessarily his fault, but he doesn't have a Stanley Cup. That factors into these things. He does have a Vezina trophy, which helps his case. So I think it's maybe one of those where I would say, and believe me, I love Pekka, and I consider myself so fortunate that I actually have a personal relationship with Pekka now, because he's a wonderful human being and obviously a wonderful goalie. But I guess I wouldn't really be, it's kind of one of those, like, I wouldn't be completely stunned if he did, but I would also not be the least bit surprised if he did not.
Like, you wouldn't hardcore argue and protest at the Hall of Fame.
I would not write a 40-page thesis about it and then defend it to a board of academics
in front of some spring lambing farmer. I get it. I get that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I go back and forth on this one. Look, he's not going to be first round. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the obvious first ballot Hall of Fame guy. He's just not. It does not help that he did not win in the Stanley Cup finals in 2017. I think that would have helped a lot. But if you look at his stats, like I look at I pulled up Henrik Lundqvist's, they played, Rinne played about 200 less games, but like they have the exact same goals against average, basically the same, numbers when it comes to save percentage, ballpark on shutouts. And Lundqvist won a Vezina but didn't win a cup. So I'm like, So here is how I think it's going to pan out. I think a lot is going to depend on how some of this quote unquote generation of goaltenders performs. Because if there is exponential improvement in the goaltending role and performances, then I understand why down the road Rinne is going to get overlooked. But it's one of those ones. I'm with you. Wouldn't be surprised either way. And look, friends, here's what's real. He doesn't even need to go in the Hall of Fame because he is Hall of Fame in our hearts. Okay. So like potato, whatever, Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, he's in the what's it called? The golden
Golden Arches.
Yeah, he's in
That's not it.
the Golden Hall or something.
Yeah, the Golden
Whatever,
Hall.
with him and David Poile and Shea Weber. Yep. So it's like he absolutely is a team Hall of Famer, because
100%.
all these teams have their own, halls of fame. Like, honestly, I think, kind of a bad look on the Predators now that the only number, I mean, not like a bad look, but it's kind of funny that the only jersey number they retired is not the jersey number of the only player they now have in the Hall of Fame, and that's Shea Weber. So you gotta imagine that banner ceremony is coming this year.
Yes.
It has to be, because it's like, oh crap, he's in the Hall of Fame. We retired a different guy's number.
Yeah. We gotta finish this. Yeah. So beloved by the franchise, by the city. And I do think respected across the NHL. I just don't know how that's going to sort out. But my friends, college friends are in town, and we were walking downtown, and of course I showed them the Pekka Rinne statue, and they took a picture of me showing off my Rinne tattoo in front of Pekka Rinne. We will not be posting that on social media. And you're welcome.
My thing about statues too, and this very well may just be a me thing, and I think I've said it on here before, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Pekka himself. I find it strange when statues are erected of living people. I feel like they should be dead before you make a statue. I'm not like we wish no ill. Right. I'm not advocating for the death of Pekka Rinne anytime soon. I'm just saying, in general, it's like weird to me. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why, but it's like I feel like if there's going to be a likeness of like a life-size likeness of that person, then that person should be deceased. And I don't really have a reason for that other than just vibes. I don't know.
Vibes.
Just
see, I'm the opposite. I want to have my funeral well before I die so I can be there. Something to ponder. We'll write a 40-page paper and defend it on another episode. All right, Emma,
invite all your sheep farmer friends.
I will. Yeah, I will.
You don't want to miss it. Yeah.
Don't want to miss my sheep farming. Before we log off, we gotta be bold. We got to do the thing we hate to do most, which is make predictions. Who's going to win Game 6 tonight? We hate this.
My mind says Florida, but every single time in these playoffs that I've picked against Edmonton, they have won. So take from that what you will.
Chew on that. Yeah, I'm with you. I can see that Florida has some momentum and all of this. I really do think Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they are not going to go down without a fight. It does bring up, and we're going to do a podcast on this, the whole conversation about goaltending in the playoffs. We're going to talk about that. But I am going to go ahead and say that the Oilers are going to take it to Game 7 because I really, really want them to. And we haven't had a lot of nice things.
Yeah, I just again, I've been saying it all along in the playoff show that I've been hosting for the hockey news too, that like if this series, like if this was going to be the matchup for the final, it was going to 7 games. Like there's no way it wasn't. And I was one of the people who said that, and even now I'm like, well, Florida, they have the momentum, but that like Edmonton has come back from they came back from down 3-0 last year, so different team now slightly, but still I think I agree. I don't think it's easy like, oh, Florida's got it, like Florida's gonna take this easily. Neither result would really surprise me.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you know on tomorrow's show how right or wrong we were. We may also present our 40-page papers for your review. So tune in on tomorrow's episode.
It's going to be a long off season.
It's going to be a long off season. And so we have things to talk about. Emma, before we log off on today's show, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan. You can find my work at the Hockey News. And if you'd really like to read my 40-page paper that is now entirely outdated about baseball in the Dominican Republic, I can probably find it somewhere.
That's amazing.
Upon request.
You can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Nice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio. You can't find a darn thing on the internet about the spring lambing program and its benefits for the small sheep farmer because we didn't do work on computers back when I wrote that. So, but I'd be happy to talk about it with you at your leisure. We are going to dig into that on tomorrow's show. We will be talking more hockey, so make sure you join us here tomorrow again. We hope you all have a fabulous Tuesday. We'll see you then.